All right, all right. Let's see. All right, what is going on, everyone? It is Wednesday. What's up, Jim Rat? How you doing, man? It's Wednesday. Got a nice chill night. Thank you for joining me. My name is Uncle Eddie, and I will be your dungeon master. Tonight, we got a nice little chill stream. We're just gonna do a little DM prep. We had a game usually scheduled for Thursdays. Come to show some love, Jim Rat. You are legendary. Everybody go check out Jim Rat. I think I can do this. I don't know. I don't know if my shout out thing is set up right. But if not, Jim Rat 94. Check it out. Come and hang. We're playing Apex every once in a while. But yeah. So we had a game tomorrow that we were going to do Dragon Icespire Peak, but they canceled that. And now we're going to try to fill up the Saturday with a little one-shot that we're going to put together. And I usually find one-shots are really hard because, you know, you're supposed to play them very easy, very, very casual. And the hardest thing is that one-shots are almost never one-shots, right? They're always two-shots, really. Oh, thank you, love. Dude, you're the best, dude. Beandro, what up? Hope you're having a great day. Nice chill Wednesday. I'm tired. I don't know. We're just gonna chill. We're just gonna drink some tea and prep this little one shot. But yeah, so one shots. You should really call them two shots. Call them little mini campaigns because it's really hard to just get them into one little one shot. I think one of the biggest problems is, you know, D&D is it lends itself so well to role playing and exploration that when your characters get together and they've played together a few times and they have some new characters that they want to try, it's hard to, you know, you don't ever want to interrupt players when they're, you know, introducing their characters or role playing in character. You know, you always want to reward that, but with a one shot, you're very restrained to your time. You know, not all of us can really spend 8 hours in a D&D one shot, so you really got to make sure that it's going to be 3 to 4 hours. This one, I think, hopefully, hopefully this is actually doable in one session. And I think that after a while, I've picked up a few tricks. One of the biggest and easiest things that you can do if your games are starting to get a little bogged down is just throw up the initiative tracker or whatever way you track initiative. Put it somewhere that the players can always see it. If you're a paper DM, you can get those little card. They fold over your DM screen. You can put them in order. Sometimes they'll have these little like flag totems that you can use for initiative, or simply. If your players are notorious for I'm not sure, it's fine. You know, it's hard to think what you want to do. Just say, hey, you're on deck. You know, all right, this character's up right now. You're next on deck, and then that kind of preps the player to be ready. Little things like that. The other thing that you can do is, you know, with one shots, you're not playing a campaign, so it's a little bit easier to kind of get away with giving the characters things. Like, you know, the whole thing about, like, if I wasn't supposed to fail, then you shouldn't have made me roll. So if you're going to roll lock something, make sure it's something that's worthwhile. You know, but other than that, like, if they say that they're looking around, just tell them. Just give them clues. Give them, you know, try not to give them very, very obvious clues. But, you know, you can not railroad them, but push them along. You've got a time limit, but... The other thing about one-shots is you have to pick how many encounters you want to have. So if you're going to have more than one encounter, your one-shot should really just be a combat one-shot, if you want it to be one-shot. If you have 2 sessions, great. If you want it to be 1 session and you want to have multiple encounters, you got to be able to burn through them real quick because, you know, combat is the slowest thing about D&D. You know, one combat encounter, however big. What's up, Fanatic GTX Gaming? Welcome in. Thank you for the follow. Just doing a little chill stream, doing a little DM prep. You could have a combat encounter that could last easily over an hour. Depending on what level you are, depending on what you're fighting. So if you're having a one shot, you got to think about how many encounters do I want to have. And then when you start thinking about how many encounters you want to have, it kind of really throws off the whole CR thing, the whole challenge rating thing. It's always been kind of a wash, and I think that maybe we can kind of talk about this. I think that this one shot in particular has an interesting way to approach the one shot. It is by DM Dave. It is a one shot called The Dead Squid Cove by DM Dave. I think all of his stuff is really good. I think they're really easy to digest for any level of a dungeon master. I think they're easy to kind of sprinkle in, and I'm really lazy. So they've already got all of the dynamic lighting and all the tokens all set up for me. Great. So the thing about this one shot is it's built as one encounter. So when you look at this map, right, I would see 3 encounters, right? This is, whoever's going to play this is some spoilers. These are actually just dead. They're not even going to fight them. It's kind of like a trick so that other stuff can happen. So that there's the main boss of this is a wereboar for some reason. And we've got 2 drow and we've got a veteran. So, you've got some options here, but the whole thing is supposed to be played out as one encounter, basically. And I think that what he's trying to do here is make this one shot into an actual one shot. I want this to be one shot. So let's see what we get. The Adventure Primer. You could put this anywhere. I kind of picked this one because it's relevant to Saltmarsh, the campaign that we're playing on Saturdays, every other Saturday. It's relevant and it's nautical themed. There's some octopi, and I don't know what to, but background is there's been talk all over the Dark Sea. We're going to replace this with the Azure Sea, about a graveyard of ships the captains call the Dead Squid Cove. Some folk jabber about the piles of gold rumored to litter the sandy beaches of that great cavern. Other whispers about the undead octopus that floats in the dark, draining the life from anyone foolish enough to go in there. It wasn't even a week ago when a party of 4 would-be adventurers set in the direction of Dead Squid Cove, eyes alight with dreams of more gold than they could spend. Of course, not a soul has heard of them since. The truth is, Dead Squid Cove is nothing more than a clever invention of a gang of bandits calling themselves Corrupted Waters. So, you can kind of put this anywhere in your campaign. If you have a nautical campaign like myself, I'm running this as a standalone one-shot, but kind of lumping it together. But yeah, it's kind of a trick. You can kind of trick them with a classic treasure hunt, but it's actually some bandits that are just kind of squatting there. The gang's leader, a feisty wereboar named Corkscrew Colton, discovered a series of caverns while escaping the law. With the help of his lover, Shelby the Ruthless, a pair of drow going by the name of Arasku and Lapalo, Colton turned to the cavern into a death trap. The cove gets its name from giant squids that posse catch and hang around the cavern. Several sound carries strange in the old caverns, so folks who have gotten close enough to the trap-ridden waters near the cover and escape to tell tales of ghostly octopuses spooking up the place. DM Dave, I really like your writing here. Spooking up the place, yes. The problem is, the Corrupted Waters picked a fight that they shouldn't have. A boat full of nobles carrying important treaty documents got themselves lost on the way to their destination. Colton and the rest killed the nobles, and now things have turned sour between the two nations, depending on those documents. Now a war is brewing. Someone better find those documents and fast, or else. So we can kind of doctor this up again a little bit. The Corrupted Waters picked a fight with these nobles. We'll call them loyalists instead to match Saltmarsh. My cat is trying to eat my charger. 1 second, please. Just gonna toss that over there. We're going to replace nobles with loyalists, and We can probably have this job given out by Eleander Fireborn or Anders Solmar from Saltmarsh. But the Avenger Hook. While characters are traveling near or through the Dark Sea, Azure Sea, we'll say, an old ally of theirs named Otis Crompton approaches. Otis explains that his home, Innopolis, is on the precipice of war with neighboring Oslum. Innopolis recently tasked a group of his nobles to sail Innopolis with a 20,000 gold piece appeasement to prevent coming to arms. Unfortunately, the nobles never made it to Ossithloom. Ossithloom, already unable to trust Innopolis, believes the nobles never left in the first place. However, they cannot afford a second appeasement. An Innopolis sailor claims that he saw the noble ship sailing past the Dead Squid Cove, and a vertebrate graveyard of ships. Rumor has it that the area is haunted and by undead squid. No one has ever had the grit to go there. If the nobles went in there, they're likely dead. No one in Innopolis is aware of the Corrupted Waters gang and their traps, so we have to switch all of this Innopolis with Saltmarsh. Otis implores the characters to investigate the Dead Squid Cove, Otis being Anders, offering directions to the Cursed Cove. If they can recover the appeasement, or at least find proof that the nobles are killed along the way, Innopolis might be able to prevent a coming war with the Ossithloom. If characters agree, and they don't already have their own mode of transportation on water, Otis loads them a rowboat and a lantern before sending them on their way. The way that I'm probably going to approach this is I'm going to give them a ship. Ship's not really important in this one shot, so you don't really have to worry about the mechanics of the ship, though Saltmarsh does have sailboat mechanics. You just give them a ship and put them on the water. Get in the boat. Mean Drew knows. Get in the boat. Give them a ship, put them on the water, give them an introduction about this Avenger Hook, about, this lost appeasement. And then what you'll do is you should give them, a little bit of time, 15 minutes to a half an hour, to introduce themselves, introduce their characters, say what they look like, and then let them kind of role play their introductions if you want. And then that is usually the point where all one-shots take forever, because you start off, and if there's a shop, if you put a shop in front of them, that's going to take like 45 minutes. If you put a town in front of them, or any kind of sandbox, the role playing there and talking to shopkeepers is just like really going to bog it down. So what I usually do is I'll usually tell the players, all right, you're level 4. This is made for levels 3 to 5. The average party level. All shopkeepers are sus. Exactly. I mean, yeah, that's where you get, shops, it's hard because you don't want to like skim over it because it bogs things down so much. But like, at the same time, you can learn a lot of secrets in shops. Everybody wants to go get a magic weapon. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just like, all right, if it's a one shot, you're level 3 to 5, you can have, depending on what level, go back to lurking because I haven't decided if I'm going to play. All right, sounds good. It's, I usually give them like an uncommon item, because at that point in time, a level 3 or 5 adventurer would find some kind of item. Maybe I'll make it common. We'll see. But the whole thing about this one shot kind of revolves around the players not having non-magical items. So you got to be careful with what level you give them, because then all of them could show up with +1 swords, and then the encounter would kind of be thrown. But we're going to assume that we can give them some magic items. We'll say common. We're going to say common this time. Don't give them any potions. I mean, you can if you want to, depending on what kind of game you want to play. I like to. I think the players that I have now are well experienced, and I think I'm just going to run stuff without ever giving extra potions. out. So yeah, with this, so with encounters per day. So when you're doing a one shot and you're deciding what kind of encounter you want to have, or how many encounters you want to have, you have to decide what your level of difficulty is, and that's almost always impossible because every monster has its own set of features and attacks and abilities, and you know, a CR1 and another CR1 are not the same. But in the context of the situation, they should be able to handle it. So if you're going to kind of dive into it, we can start to kind of look into the DMG, the monster manual, a lot of this stuff. You can look on forums, find your way through there. But this is going to kind of give us a good direction to go. And then I'll show you the lazy way to do it. The sidebar on the DMG 82 explains one important aspect of CR. A monster's of higher CR than the party's average party level is likely to have special features or damage output that is too much for the party to handle. So my favorite thing to kind of compare this to is an orc. So everybody thinks that orcs, orcs are, it's classic. How many times have you fought an orc in your life? However, when I was the DM and learning how to DM, it took me a really long time to learn that like the features of the monster are so much more important than the attacks of the monster. So, okay, an orc has a great axe. Awesome. It deals 1d12 plus 3. That's 15 damage to a player. That's a lot of damage. An orc can do a lot of damage with this great axe. I've seen it happen. But the thing that makes them so tough is their aggressive racial feature, which is, as a bonus action, the orc can move up to its speed to a hostile creature that it can see. So the thing that I kind of like to do with orcs is like kind of push them into the fight just outside of the range where the players think that they have like a turn to kind of like set up their range attacks and like spells and buffs and stuff. You put them like 60 feet away or whatever. Yeah, you put them 60 feet away, and then you kind of like stop them there. Maybe you have one of the orcs chuck a javelin if they're not there yet, and then you just have one of them just kind of yell charge, and then all of them are going to use their full movement of 30 feet, and then their bonus action, another 30 feet with their aggressive tactic. And that totally changes everything, because now the orcs are like all up in their front line, and you could have somebody flanking in around the other side while the orcs are just charging in. So features really matter. So that's what this is talking about. A monster's CR is equivalent to its XP reward, which is used to build encounters. So as Monster Manual page 9 says, a monster of CR equal to the party's level is a moderate challenge for a party of 4 characters. And that's why like so many people have like that right there is pretty much exactly why encounters are so hard to balance. If you compare the table on Monster Manual 9 to the DMG 82, you can see that this is roughly consistent to the encounter building rules. So if you start to look into the DMG, when you think about easy encounters, medium encounters, hard, deadly, I use Kobold Fight Club almost exclusively, and it'll kind of give you this range. And when you think of hard, you think, okay, this is supposed to be a hard fight, but like that's not really what it means. It means that it could go very badly if things were to happen. If you lose initiative, if the monster crits on you, if you're not hitting anything, if you're out of spell slots, weaker characters might get taken out of the fight, and there's a slim chance that one of our characters might die. You might have a PC death just on hard, so you don't even need deadly to have a PC death. So, all right, I have my CRs and I have my XP values. Now I got to put this all together for a daily adjusted XP per day per character, because 5e, they built it so that you would have multiple encounters in a day, and they assume that, by the time that you get to the big boss, the characters are lower in spell slots. They've used their short rests. They've used features to, arcane recovery or to get their spell slots back. They've used resources to get to this fight. That's why you'll kind of see sometimes you put this awesome monster that you found in front of a completely well-rested party, and then all of a sudden they get smashed. And it's like, well, your encounter is, it's not the same. The other thing that I learned about encounters is you always are tailoring the encounter to your party. No parties are created equally. You could have a party like I have where there's 2 fighters, a sorcerer and a druid. So you would think it's like not that bad. They don't really have like a tank, but like both of the fighters are tanks. The sorcerer is putting out all these AoE spells, and the druid is like another tank. So I have a really tanky party just with 4 people, and they crush anything I put in front of them. And it took me a really long time to learn this, but every monster, this rolled value right here that they give you, it's like a range for this monster. So it gives you the average, which is what you always use, 78 HP. Okay, this thing has 78 HP, but also you could roll for it or just use this rolled as your min and max. So if I get 8 plus 24, the minimum HP value of this creature is 32, and the maximum, I don't know how to do math, maximum HP value of this creature is 120. If you were to roll all 12 or all 8s on these D8s plus 24, you would have that much. So when I start setting up my encounters for this group that I have that's really tanky, I'll usually go up to the upper registers of these ranges because of how much damage they're outputting. Otherwise, they just kind of feel bored. And yeah, so like that can also kind of push things up or push things down. You kind of have to take your average party level again. If I were to start this one shot, it's designed for an average party level of 4 characters, 3 to 5 players. So 4. If I end up having 3 characters, all level 3, I'm going to go down a little bit, and they might be still pretty hard for them to fight. You gotta kind of have to just play it by ear. That's why you'll see a lot of dungeon masters, they'll talk about like, oh yeah, I added like 50 HP to this monster after the first turn because they were doing so much. That's what this already does. Just add it to the beginning anyway. Just use the higher register if you know that they're going to stomp through it. But be careful and make sure they don't have like some. Beware of their features again. So we're gonna use averages for everything because we still don't know how many players we're gonna have this weekend, but we'll see. I'm also gonna probably change a few things with this, but that's kind of where I go. With all of that being said, I kind of usually just pop the encounters into Kobold Fight Club. It does a really good job of giving you a general idea of where things could be, and then you should really look at your party and see how much you should modify those HP values or AC, whatever you want to do. So let's talk about the adventure itself. This adventure is very interesting because you have like a one-shot mechanic that you have to manage while you do this. And I think that this is a very good warm-up for the Danger at Dunwater module within Saltmarsh, because it has a very dense mechanic to it. Like the whole layer has a mechanic. Every room that they go into, the lizard folk could move around between rooms. You have to keep track of their like scores and stuff. We'll talk about it, but the way that this one works is kind of when they show up, these squatters are going to kind of spring a surprise on them. So let's see if we can find it. I don't think it's in these quick notes. Yeah. So let's see here. Here it is. But let's read through it. Otis wasn't lying. The Cove is a graveyard of ships. Although most of the ships are small, there's easily a few dozen of them smashed into rocks, half sunk, sometimes even piled high on top of each other. Just beyond a few columns of rocks, the water is into a large cavern. An eerie bluish light shines out from the cavern's maw, and maybe it's just a trick of the ear, but over the water, sloshing against the barnacled, broken vessels, you could swear you hear some sort of ethereal wailing. So you have to be really careful how you read this and really play up the whole dead octopus thing. The cavern itself was naturally formed and carved by the water. Decades ago, the cult of Ostius used the cavern to perform their rituals of justice. Eventually, the cult summoned a Eustian punisher that deemed them unworthy and slew them all, leaving the place empty. In the 12 months while Colton and his waters have lived there, they have made themselves at home and collected quite the hoard from those they've slayed. This gives some information about the doors. They're doors. How many doors the same height as the chamber ceilings too? The doors can be used to block access through the complex. Destroyed by time in the sea long ago. Okay, so here's the whole thing. Gang tactics. Explorers who set foot on the beach are likely distracted by the pile of treasure in 4B or the voices coming from Area 5. So already you're going to have to let them come in on the boat in here and make sure that you really play up this whole there's treasure over here that you can kind of see, maybe a glint of something shiny, or in your passive perception, blah, 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 blah. And then always, kind of point out the wailing in the cavern, try to set the mood a little bit. They're maybe pirates or treasure hunters, something like that. Once the characters are into the light, Colton, the werebore, emerges from Area 6 in hybrid form and makes a charge attack against the nearest creature he can, hopefully a weak one. So you use this guy, look for the back line, look for a caster. He then withdraws back into the Area 6. He's betting on the fact that he can't be harmed by non-magical weapons. Can he be harmed by non-magical weapons? So that's really tough for a one-shot. Damage immunities, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical attacks that aren't silvered. So, yeah, I mean, how are these characters going to know that they need a silvered or magical weapon going into a cove? They're not really going to know that they're going to see a werebore in a pirate campaign, right? So I don't know how I feel about the werebore, but we're going to keep them. We're just going to run it as it is and see how it plays out. We're going to use the werebore, and they're going to have to think on their feet really quickly and perhaps use cantrips and spells and maybe the fighter or some kind of martial class is going to have to, grapple or something. Maybe you hope that you have some kind of buff on your weapon that makes it magical. So that makes that guy pretty tough. So we're not going to even adjust his HP. If they can't attack him and he starts coming in with these multi-attacks, they're going to have to think quick. And I think that 78 is okay. But, this AC is so low. So once they do figure out a way to attack him, it should be pretty quick on killing him. So the werebores, they're going to come in and you're going to try to get him into here. But I'm going to say probably try to get him into 4A. towards 4B so that you can get them all pushed into this area. Maybe even put the boat right here and kind of like point it towards there and just try to funnel them into this area. And then you're going to have to, sneak this guy out here. And then once they're all pressed into this cave, like looking at these dead octopuses, push this guy in here, get the back line, and he's going to retreat in initiative. Meanwhile, the 2 drow in Area 10 slink into Area 5 and start firing shots from the dark. They use the 2 dead octopuses and as half cover, +2 to AC and dexterity saving throws. Colton tries to hold the characters in Area 6, while Shelby, the ruthless veteran, fires from her nook in Area 9B. Shelby gets 3/4 cover from the arrow slit and drops prone between shots, which grants her full cover. If Colton needs to retreat, he grabs the shield door connecting areas 6 and 7 and holds it in place while Shelby continues to fire. Meanwhile, the drow take up the rear. Should all else fail, the gang uses the circular nature of the environment to fire and move, using Colton as their tank. So it's very good that the writer of this one shot gives you all of that. He has a very clear way that this is supposed to play out, whether or not whether this has been play tested, of course. It's a very clear way that you're kind of supposed to play this out, and don't be afraid to like stick to it. It's a one shot, so if you start laying into the characters and like one of them goes down, like just keep going. It's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be a one shot, so there's not a huge amount of investment from the characters. So we can kind of go into each location and discuss that. Dead Squid. I gotta stop saying C. Dead Squid Cove Bay is littered with broken vessels, much with are barely visible within the waterline. The mass of these destroyed ships act as a natural water traps. Each round, the characters row up to the beach, elect one of the rowers. A strength check using proficiency in water vehicles. On a failed check, the row's hull scrapes against a broken vessel, taking some damage as a result. The rowboat's hull has 50 hit points. If it's reduced to 0, the boat starts to sink. Characters can swim through the area without any difficulty. So this is kind of just like a fun RP area. What they're doing there is he's giving you some check challenges, skill challenges to get the boat onto land. And they'll probably yell at each other. The characters will probably yell at each other if they get some water in the boat, which is always good for a DM to watch. As the characters get closer to dry land, read the following. You can finally see the source of the blue light. A tentacled aberration, easily the size of a horse, floats 3 feet above the sand. The blue light radiates from within. 3 more such creatures drift behind it, their lifeless, horrible eyes staring back at you as you approach. So the joke is that these are props, and he's using a lot of really great words that like reinforce the idea that they're not props, and to drag them closer in to try to fight these things. And then once they see that they're dead, they're gonna be like, okay, well, why are they up here? Let me check this out. Characters who succeed on a perception check recognize that the octopuses are dead. And characters who pass the check by 5 or better also realize that the octopuses are not floating, but they have been hung on tall poles, which have been painted to look like the cave's sand. So like when I'm looking at this map, when you look at this map and not read the thing, you see 1, 2, 3 encounters. Why are there dead octopuses there? But then you start to read into the mechanics that he built into it, and it makes sense. It's a trap. You're trying to lure them in and steal their adventurous money. This wreckage area over here, the noble's ship rests in the sand above this alcove. Its hull is a wreck. The ship itself is empty, and the treasure is nearly gone. After the ship got damaged, the nobles managed to pull it safely here. Seeing the light in the cavern, they went to investigate. Unfortunately, they discovered Colton and the corrupted waters. After the gang killed Inniopolisers, they looted their ship and stole their appeasement. Characters who succeed on a survival check see the tracks leading to the beach in Area 4. So I don't really get what this is for. I think it's kind of one of those things that, like, hey, you're in a dungeon and you find an empty room. Like, okay. So make this story, like, in a journal. Or, you know, like, in a journal. I think that's the only way that you can really do it. Put it in a journal. It's kind of like thrown into the rubble of this ship that's over here in the sand or something like that. Kind of give you a little more depth, a little bit of background into where these characters are, so it's not just hit things. I hit stuff. There's a hidden rowboat. The rowboat that Colton and his gang used to evacuate the island is stored in this alcove, but disguised to look like the rest of the wrecked boats in the cove. A character with a proficiency in carpenter's tools or water vehicles who succeed in a DC 10 investigation check recognize that the boat still functions. So that's their only clue that they're not walking into, like, tall tale dead octopus land. The group cleared a path along the southern cave wall. So long as the rowers stay within 10 feet of the wall, they won't need to make checks as detailed in Area 1. The only thing that I'm worried about with them going this way is if they show up here, I think that they're going to be able to see the werebore right there. So, I don't know. You kind of just have to let them... If they find him, they find him. And if they were to kind of like go up in on him and figure out what's going on, I think that he'd probably make an attack and then back off with this shield door and then let the veteran fire with into these arrow holes, and then he's gonna start doing the circle. Okay. So hopefully they land right here. But as you know, characters are never going to do what you expect them to do. So they finally make it to the beach. 4 floating octopuses stand on guard in the sandy beach. 3 on the larger southern area and 1 on the outer side of the spring water stream that empties into the cove. Once the characters get within 15 feet of the octopuses, they won't need to make checks to realize that the octopuses are dummies. Interesting. However, the treasure in 4B might draw their attention away from that fact. Once they get into the area, the octopuses are dead, but a closer look reveals that it is not undead either. In fact, it's been hung on a pole that's been painted to look like the sand on the beach. A hooded lantern hangs from a rusty hook on the other side of the pole. The lantern's glass is blue, which gives the light its eerie blue tinge. 2 more such tentacled dummies hang from similar poles roughly 20 feet behind this one, although those don't seem to have their own lanterns. To the north, I guess they do that so that the Area 5 isn't so lit up. To the north, on the other side of a slow-moving stream coming from deeper within the cavern, hangs a 4th octopus. This octopus floats over a pile of glittering gold coins. Main beach. Source of light comes from the hooded lantern. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Sandbar. 4th dead octopus stands guard. Portion of the gang's earnings. They use gold coins to distract the intruders so that they can spring their trap. So yeah, really play up this mound of treasure. That's the whole mechanic. So yeah, draw them in with the octopuses, with the glowing, eerie octopuses, thinking that they're going to go fight magical octopuses, and then draw them in with the hoard of gold. Because even though it's a one-shot, everybody loves gold. There is 1,000 gold pieces littered on this beach. Okay, there is actually gold there. The gang intentionally spread them around so that they aren't easy to pick up. Character used their action to pick up 25 gold pieces, and it takes a total of 40 actions to pick up all the gold pieces in the sand. Wow. I don't know. You fit that much? That spread out in that small area. If the treasure doesn't distract the creatures or characters, the gang uses its oddly shaped cavern to create additional diversions. The drow pair in Area 10 poke their head out of the secret passage and throw their voices into the cavern. A character who succeeds on a perception check recognizes that the voices are coming from another area in the cavern. Character who succeeds on a wisdom check recognizes the voices are coming from another area. So does that mean that they... Okay, here we go. And a character who succeeds on an insight check determines that the voices are trapped. So the perception check tells them where it's coming from. The insight check tells them that it's a trap. A large curtain painted with and hangs over a secret entrance leading... I think that's a typo. Over a secret entrance leading into the old cultist chambers. The character who succeeds on a perception check spots the curtain. Oh, the curtain is painted. I get it. Finally, you've got Colton's Cave. Corkscrew Colton waits here to get the drops on Snoops. Unless encountered elsewhere, Colton, a werebore, plants his ambush from the dark cavern. Colton can't see in the dark, so he relies on the lantern's light to illuminate those he hopes to bop with his maul. See gang tactics from above. Okay, so that's interesting. He can't see. This one can. So this guy can't see. So that means if he's in here, he's not going to be able to see. Is that true? Yeah. You would think a werebore would have some kind of night vision, but I guess not. Okay. Then you start getting into like a small little mini dungeon crawl, but it's not really a crawl because they're going to have this one fight and then it's just going to kind of be an exploration thing. But we're going to add something to this one shot. There's a swinging axe trap in 7B. I don't see a secret marker. No. The chest, okay. Sleeping in 7A. 2 bedrolls, litter, and 2 explorers pack, complete with rations and water, cover the floor of this area. Other than the contents of explorers pack, there's nothing really else of value. 7B. Colton keeps the ill-gotten gains in his large chest, but the chest is trapped. So I guess this is the chest. I think what we're going to do is put an actual chest there. AKA Former, what up? What's going on? Just got a little DM prep going on here for the weekend. Just picked out a random little one shot from D and Dave. We're kind of assessing it right now. What we need is this treasure chest that I always use. So we're gonna put it right there, just so they see it, and then I don't have to tell it to them. The chest is unlocked. However, a creature who tries to open the chest without first disarming it is in for a surprise. A spring-loaded hatchet swings out of the chest, targeting whoever is foolish enough to steal from the corrupted waters. Roll an attack for the axe against the creatures trying to open the chest with a +8 to hit. I really like that using to hit rolls for traps instead of make a dexterity save, blah, 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 blah. Like, no, you should really, you should use it for a surprise. Yeah, it doesn't really make sense for a pit trap to be an attack to hit, but if you can use it, use it. Like, you would never use a dexterity saving throw. Like, I guess you could, but like, it definitely makes more sense to use a +8 to hit than a dexterity save for this trap. On a hit, the axe deals 2d6 slashing damage. A character who succeeds on an investigation check, this is a really low DC, notices the trap and a switch on its side that seems to disarm it. I'd probably raise this because they're going to be level 4. If you're going to give them a range of 3 to 5, they're always going to pick 5. I would probably raise that to like 15 because it's a one-shot, just to be mean. By this time, if they're searching this cave, they're probably done with the combat. That round of combat, I should say. And, they're not really going to be phased by it. So definitely make it higher. I would say it's probably DC 15. Unfortunately, Switch does nothing to okay, that's why. Unfortunately, Switch does nothing to disarm the trap. If the character succeeded the check by 5 or better, they also notice that the first switch is a dead ringer for the real switches, which is on the back of the chest. Okay, so he just did what I said. So DC 10 to find the fake switch, and 5 or better, DC 15, meaning they find the actual disarm. So that's great. I like that. DC 10 to find a fake thing. They're going to pull it. I'm going to be like, okay, you hear a click. That's just the click of the thing moving. And they're going to try to open it, and this thing is going to hit them. It's probably going to be a rogue, so their AC is probably not going to be super high. Treasure chest contains 20,500 gold pieces and 1,050 silver pieces and 700 copper pieces. To one shot, though, that you got to make sure that you're picking players that like are going to roleplay very well, because in a one shot, gold means pretty much nothing, right? They're never going to use this gold ever again. So play up the whole like it shines back at you. When the cartoon where they open up the chest. Oh, you really got to play that whole thing up to like make this treasure worth it. It also holds an ivory statue carved to look like an eel hound, and an embroidered handkerchief with the initials US. Both of these items are worth 25 gold pieces. The majority of this gold in this chest is from the Lost Appeasement. Okay, there's a sealed off room. As they approach this door, they catch a whiff of a horrid smell. Like other doors throughout this cultist chamber, this flotsam door is less a door than it is a pallet put in the way. However, the gang stuck a few rocks at its base to ensure it stays in place. This room is once the head of cultist chambers. In the years since the caves were abandoned, it's flooded numerous times. All the furniture and goods that were here were destroyed by seawater. Foul mold now creeps over anything. Okay, here's another trap. Toxic mold. There's a lot of traps in the Dungeon Master's Guide that like nobody ever uses. There's yellow mold and like different kinds of mold. There's slime and like all this cool stuff. It's just like ideas like any other book that they give you, but like I've never seen really anybody like look into the DMG for a trap. But in Saltmarsh they pull up there's yellow mold and there's green slime, and I guess this guy is Ian Daves is kind of using his own version of that. The characters remove the door. Each creature within 10 feet of the door must make a DC 10 Constitution saving throw. On a failed saving throw, the creature is poisoned for 1 minute. They can repeat the saving throw at each of the end of their turns. So this, like, they're not really going to be in combat anyway, or in initiative, so just remind them every real 1 minute, I guess. If Colton retreats to this area, he might grab the door to take out his opponents with a stink bomb. Wow. Okay, I really like that a lot. So he's gonna run in here. He's gonna use the shield. He's gonna use the door as a shield and try to hold it. They're gonna make a strength check or something. I'm gonna make something up for that door to get through that door. He's gonna run through here. He's gonna have everybody follow him. He's gonna open the door and unleash. Yeah, he's definitely gonna unleash the stink bomb for sure. I know the characters are probably gonna return to this area for no reason at all. Then it's just a room that they haven't seen. You could probably put some stupid item in there, like some mundane, just common magic item. Perhaps a cloak of billowing. That's probably one of my favorite useless items. Use your action to make the bonus action to make the cloak of billow dramatically. Yo, Shadow, what up, dude? We're drinking tea. We're just chilling, doing a little DM prep. Talking about traps. Talking about balancing encounters, monsters, stuff like that. Hope you're having a beautiful day, man. All right. Nice. We are all the way up to Area 9 already. We got Shelby's Lookout. We gotta actually change this name. What is their name? Shelby the Ruthless. I don't know why she's the Ruthless, but I guess we'll find out. Oh, no, we don't want to. Well, whatever, it's a one-shot. This guy's name is Colton. Make them fight a Tarask. I don't know why that was. I mean, anytime that you say the word Tarask, it should be in all caps. Hold up, let me see. Oh, whoopsie. Let's actually look at what a Tarask even is. How do I spell it? Has anybody ever actually used a Tarask? I mean, when's the time that you're gonna? When are you gonna use this, bro? You used one in a one shot. That's awesome. That's awesome. I wish I should make a Tarask one shot. Maybe I'll make a Tarask one shot. So let's look at all of the things. So we're gonna look at this as a range. I used TPK the party at the end. Nice. I was thinking about this, and like, you know, there are a lot of DMs that like really take it personally to like make sure that they like, you know, really give their characters, which actually tied into our main campaign. That's awesome. That's great. You like put them into like the underworld after you killed them, because that's, you know, that's always a good time. You know, you kill them and now they have to fight through hell or something like that. It was a shared dream that they all had. Ooh, nice, nice. Yeah, it's kind of weird because, like, I remember in particular there was a one-shot, but that party had fell apart before we uncovered. Yeah. That's the nature of D&D. It's tough, you know. You get through like, if you have a campaign or a group that lasts through like 4 or 5 sessions, then you're pretty good. But like after that, I always see it kind of crumble. But yeah, that sounds great. What was the premise of it? What was the premise of the dream? Or spoilers. Sorry, I don't want you to give away your spoilers. But a Tarask. So legendary actions, take them. Always take your legendary actions. Always make sure that you use them. If you need to, put a thing in your initiative that reminds you to use legendary actions. Don't be afraid to use them. If they're fighting a Tarask, you got to throw everything at them. They were stuck in a loop where one of them found an item and it could reset them if they died. But once they found the object, it was now they could die. Oh, I see. So like, it's kind of like not a happy ending, but a just ending, something like that. Sorry, just giving spark notes. But once they found the object, yeah, I mean, it's cool. What level were they when they fought this Tarask? So just like a dragon, come out with your frightful presence first. It was a one shot. See if they would like to play in the main game. I think we did fine. You said a Tarask them at level 5? Damn. Nice. I respect that. I like that. Legendary resistance 3 times a day. What's the CR rating? 30. Wow. Magic resistance. Advantage on all saving throws against spells and other magical effects. Damn. You better make sure you get save or half. Yeah, I told you I had to get that. Nice. Yeah, I was watching a one shot led by Liam O'Brien, and they brought out like the Demigorgon or something like that, and like there was like this moment. There's like this moment where the characters try to fight this thing, right? Like they try to fight back, and then until one of them just gets one shot, like, and insta killed. Like there's just that moment of like, oh shit, what did we just get into? Like, why is the DM being so mean to us? But that's cool. I like that. A siege monster. The Tarask deals double damage to objects and structures. So that's also a huge thing. that thing's going rampaging through the city, first of all. Then you're going to have it come out with its frightful presence right away. And what else we got? Multi-attack. Can use its frightful presence. Yeah. Then makes 5 attacks. 1 with its bites, 2 with its claws, 1 with its horns, and 1 with its tails. It can use its swallow instead of its bite. So you got to use the claws first. If you can hit one character with all 4 of these and then hit him with a swallow, one bite against the large figure. If the attack hits, the target takes the bite's damage, the target is swallowed, and the grapple ends. While swallowed, the creature is blind or restrained and has total cover against attacks and other effects outside the Tarrasque. Takes 16d6 acid damage at the start of each of the Tarrasque's turns. It takes 60 damage or more on a single turn from a creature inside it. From a creature inside of it. Taking 60 damage. That's really hard. Unless you're like level 20. The Tarrasque must succeed on a DC constituting throw. At the end of its turn, regurgitate all its squad features. So this kind of reminds me of Chomp. Yeah, I would love to unleash this on my characters, and then also use the maximum range from here. So not 6. What do we got? We're gonna give this dude 990 health. Good luck. See you later. Bye. The Tarrasque. Well, I should say this other monster reminds me of a Tarrasque. I had once used this guy, and he had a interesting swallow mechanic as well. And this creature was pretty good. It's a good creature to use. Most notably, it's got a +10 to hit. So it's not missing. Once it's bit, it takes piercing damage, and the target is swallowed. If it's a medium or smaller creature, a smaller creature is blind and restrained, has total cover, and affects and takes 10 acid damage or 3d6 acid damage at the start of each of its turns. So this is basically like a little mini Tarrasque. A Froghemoth. Froghemoth's gullet can hold up to 2 creatures at a time. I guess the Tarrasque can eat anybody. Takes 20 damage. 20 damage or more in a single turn from a creature inside of it, the Froghemoth. When I played this guy, I just did it like if somebody can do 20 damage to him at all, it's going to regurgitate them. Depends on how evil you really want to be. But we'll get back to Flail Snail in a moment. Flail Snail, best monster. Okay. So he's gonna come in here. He's gonna unleash the stink bomb. He's gonna keep running. Shelby is gonna join him at this point. He's gonna run past. He's probably gonna stop right here, and Shelby's probably gonna try to funnel attack, and Colton's probably gonna hold up. Maybe when he's got like a little bit of health left, he'll finally start to draw back, and then maybe these drow will start to help. I think that these drow should be looping around at the same time and shooting from behind the party if they can. If you can get a shot on the back line, great. Are you not a raw DM? I am like a mix, I think. I was for a very long time a rule of cool DM. And I was like, if you can explain it to me well enough and you can get a roll in, I'm going to make something up with you. Sure. Like, I want to jump off of this wall and do this thing, blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, if the context makes sense, I was usually rule of cool over read as written. If I can't remember exactly rule, I'll definitely do rule of cool. Yeah, I mean, so many people are going to use the books as like law in D&D, and like the players like look to these books as these are the rules, and the DM also has to follow them. Nope. The books are guidelines. They are recommendations. They are mechanics for you to use in your game. It is your table. You should be running your game in a way that your players will enjoy, and that you will also enjoy. If you don't enjoy reading the rules to your players, then don't, play real cool. The only thing that I've seen that comes up with Rule of Cool is like you have to be careful with what you Rule of Cool. It can't be all the time. You know, you can't be giving it to them all the time, or they're going to be asking for. I think I'm clipping a little bit. Am I clipping? Like you can't give it to them all the time. You have to make sure it's in a moment that really matters, and it's gonna be cool. It has to be cool. But the other thing is you have to be really careful with what you Rule of Cool, because the players are always going to want to do it again. And Jim Rat with the host, thank you, sir. You are legendary. But yeah, so you got to be careful because the characters will always expect to be able to do that thing that you let them do in Rule of Cool. So be ready for that to be a ruling that you keep. Otherwise, you need to retcon it and tell them about it. Be careful with Rule of Cooling any mechanics or built-in stuff, because the more that I DM, the more that I play, the more that I realize that 5e is very particular in the words that they choose and the words that they leave out. So, you know, if something is up for interpretation, it's usually better to err on the side of like, if it's not there, then you don't get it, because it usually breaks something else down the line. And that's the biggest thing, is it can look cool and it can make sense and it can save the party in that moment, but then you might find out like later on when they're level 6, level 7, higher, that some of those rules that you had brought up in Rule of Cool moments are actually going to break things later on. I'll look it up before next session and make sure we do it right. Yeah. So yeah, that's a great way to do it. You know, just make the call on the fly, and then make an official ruling after the game. Typically, thank you, Shadow, with the host. Yeah, just, you know, make sure that your players know that you can do that kind of thing too, and you know, have players that you know that you can do this kind of stuff with. But yeah, I definitely not anymore. I feel like I am a little bit more rules as written, just because of the way that things kind of work out. It's all good. It's all good. I usually just auto host with stuff anyway, so but yeah, so always be cautious of what you Rule of Cool, but at the same time, Rule of Cool whatever you want. It's your game. Do whatever you want. So we've got Shelby's Lookout. So Colton is going to unleash the stink bomb. He's got to have enough HP and make sure that there's not enough magic weapons to really get through this. Shelby, the Ruthless, and Colton are going to hold up here while the Drow also fight them if they're still alive. Once Shelby is called to action, she takes her spot in this nook using an arrow snipe to targets. Arrow slit to snipe targets tied up in melee combat with Colton. Arrow slit offers Shelby 3/4 cover. Yeah, we already. This is this little room over here. That's pretty evil. This guy's gonna be fighting stuff right here, and then honestly, I would probably put this on GM layer and not like let them see that there's even a person in here until fight really breaks off. I'm probably gonna have her like join initiative secretly, just to throw spice in there. We've got 9A. Gang uses this part of the cultist chambers to gather and eat. Shelby sits here and reads by candlelight until Colton gives a signal to the gang that they're company in the Cove. Finally, we've got 2 rooms left. The 2 Drow, Orasku and Lapalo, wait behind a secret door of this nook for Colton's signal. Their tactics are described in the gang tactics. And then finally, Colby and Shelton's room. Corkscrew, Colton, and Shelby the Ruthless sleep in this old moldy chamber. Other than a few knickknacks, there's nothing of value in this area. So we're going to put something cool in there, some kind of magic item. We don't know what it is yet. We're going to put something in there. We've got an aftermath. The characters defeat the corrupted waters and clear them from the dead Squid Cove. They can reclaim the appeasement and return it to Innopolis. They quickly deliver the appeasement to Oslum, and the threat of war subsides. Even if the characters don't defeat the corrupted waters, returning with proof that the gang exists should be enough to smooth things over. At a later date, the Navy enters the cavern, clears out the gang, and reclaims their treasure. Of course, the characters are free to claim the treasure as their own. After all, 20,000 is a lot of gold for a new party. This would easily lead to a war between Ineslis and Asum, but the characters wouldn't do something so heinous, would they? Would they? They sure would. They sure would. So let's talk about these monsters, right? He's only got 4, and this whole one-shot is based around one fight, basically. So we're gonna put her on GM layer. This whole one shot is based around one fight. So that's great because you can give a lot of time in the beginning for introductions and character descriptions and all that stuff. You don't have to rush them through that. We're gonna put them on a ship, and I was also thinking about something else, adding it just for like a little bit of extra things to do. You don't want to add too much because they're going to run over on time and totally defeat the purpose of keeping this as a one-shot, but I think that it's going to be okay. The other thing that we're going to have them do is the first part of a one-shot that I didn't get to run for the Salt Marsh ones because they chose a different starting point, which is fine. It just means I get to use it somewhere else. So this is an encounter of the week, which I really, really like. And I think that it's built really well for a level 1 party. We're not a level 1 party, but I think that this first part really, it just is a fun one-shot thing. It's not combat. So the whole premise is that you use this encounter for Salt Marsh to get them to Salt Marsh and to get them away from level 1, because the first adventure in Salt Marsh is really deadly. And if you want to get them to level 2, I definitely recommend using Sharkfin Shipwreck. This is a great encounter that James Hick, lead writer for D&D Beyond, wrote. I think it's a really great little one-shot to use. Basically what it is they get on this merchant ship that they bought tickets for, and Grandana Stormbreaker, the pirate captain, and Rackham Byron, thug that run this ship. They promise smooth sailing, and you know that's not always the case. So you play it up, you give them little introductions to have maybe a few ales, talk about their characters, and then you let them go to sleep. They are woken up about 18 hours into this voyage with a storm. And the ship is being rocked around in the storm, and the first mate will come downstairs and look for extra help from the players to get through this storm. The reason why this is used before Salt Marsh is it's really great. It gives you XP because you're doing something, but you don't have to fight a bunch of monsters and die to get to level 2. So basically what happens is it's a skill check challenge, and you can give them this table, but you basically are giving the ball to the players to kind of think their way through how they would help this ship through a really nasty storm. And a barbarian might be able to batten down the hatches, to throw canvas over the cargo hatches on deck to prevent the lower decks from flooding. They can make a strength check with athletics. So the mechanic here is that, let's see, the character succeeds on their ability check by rolling a 10 or higher and earn 1 success, and earn an additional success for every 5 points over the check that exceeds 10. What up, Loki? What's up, dude? For example, if a roll of 21 earns the character 3 successes. Note how many successes the party has in total. Failing a skill check has no immediate consequence, but the characters will want to acquire as many successes in the skill challenge. Just creeping in a little bit. We're just gonna hang out. We're just gonna come hang out for a little bit. We're talking about we're trying to spice up this one shot that we got going on here. So we're gonna use this skill check and the successes and failures determine the DC of the next skill check that you get. The storm eventually makes it to the ship, so they've spent all of this time. They spent a whole turn preparing, making these checks that they make up to ready themselves. But then the storm finally hits, and then they have to do another series of checks to make sure that the just took your dice out of the wash, Loki. Oh, hell yeah. I'm ready to see those. Were you able to, do you know what I mean by, gotta let them dry and pull off supports to let you know how they turn out. Are you able to balance them? And when I say balance, you know what I mean by dice balancing? Successfully complete this challenge, characters must make 3 successful ability checks before earning 3 failures. So the first round is these are just masters for a model. That's awesome, dude. Are you gonna get molds and like acrylic and gel and stuff and start making dice? Because I want dice. I will buy dice from you, please. Going to redo them in the resin. Hell yeah, hell yeah. I will be your first customer, bro. I gotta get a printer to make. Yeah, have you ever heard of a MakerBot? I think it's called. I think it's what a lot of people use. I think it's really expensive though. But yeah, so we're gonna use this. We're gonna use this skill check challenge. You're gonna have a skill check challenge first. Doesn't matter what level they are. Maybe I'll scale it up a little bit. Change the DC from the first skill check from 10 to 12, I guess. Yeah, I'm gonna do 12. So if they fail, we're gonna crash the ship and we're gonna wash them up, and they're gonna go through the one shot as is. We're not gonna go through any of this stuff. I just think the skill check stuff is a really good flavor in the beginning. Let people roll a couple times. MakerBot is a filament printer. Yeah. Looks super high detail. What's the difference between your filament? I haven't been in 3D world in a very long time. What's the difference between what you have and what a MakerBot is? Yeah, we're not going to use any of this fighting the Sahuagin part of this encounter, but we're going to use the first part of it just to give them the skill check encounter. You know, maybe if they win the skill check encounter and make it to this cove without crashing their ship, I'll probably give them inspiration. Give each of them an inspiration point for doing it. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, we're gonna throw that in there in the beginning. That's gonna take up the first hour of the one shot, I think, at least a minimum. That's gonna take up. This fight is probably gonna take up an hour, maybe. And then the rest of the exploring is gonna take about an hour. So I'm gonna say the fight around the cave, yeah, it's probably maximum an hour. Exploring is gonna take up an hour. That's 3 hours right there. Gets your pillars, and for a one shot that's streamed, I think that's a good balance. Mine uses resin and UV lights to cure. It's normally a little less messy when you pull the model off, and can normally be higher detail with less layers showing. I'm gonna use my first test dummy. Yeah, I mean, hey, you know. Can't complain with that, right? That's really cool though. You're just using Thingiverse though? Do you make any of the 3D models? Like, send me your characters if you want printed. See, that's the problem, is I'm a forever DM. I don't have any characters. I can send you NPCs, maybe. I filled the type. Nice. What'd you use for what program did you use? Pro Cinema Nuvo. Right. Man, I use Blender. Gotcha. Nice. Yeah, so these monsters. Okay, we're gonna send the characters to Dead Squid Grove, and we're not gonna make them fight any squids. Come on, you gotta throw at least one squid at them. So what we're gonna do is, I just want to tell me why I queue game and then get no teammates. Because they want you to. They know that you're Loki. Yeah, true. Because you didn't invite him. Okay, so they're gonna get here after their skill check. They're gonna go through this circular fight, and then after they've searched everything, gotten the treasure, if there's at least 45 minutes left of the one shot, if it's like 9:45 or 9:30, I am gonna throw probably 5 to 6 octopuses at them. 6 giant octopuses is just a hard encounter, but after fighting those monsters, I think that's fine. It's a nice little send off. Any more than that, it's a deadly encounter. The giant octopuses have a lot of HP, but they're easy to hit, so it will last a long time. So I don't want to throw too many of them. I might go down to 4 and just make it easy peasy. And the whole premise is that they're going to be attracted to, the characters are probably going to mess with this squid and probably move it or poke it or something. And I'm just going to say that there were some regular octopuses that are drawn to the smell. Maybe some of the blood from fighting the wereboar or whatever falls into the water and attracts some dead octopuses. The only problem with that is that the octopus can only breathe underwater, and this whole in-cloud ability can only be used underwater. So hopefully they take their boat out, and then once they take the boat out, I'm probably going to attack them with the octopuses before they leave the one shot, if there's enough time. If not, then they just end, and that's it. But I thought it was a good way to add one more little thing into it. The other thing that I was thinking about changing out are these drow. I don't really get... I get why he used drow. So let's look at the encounter. We have a veteran. We have a wereboar. And we have 2 drow. So the 2 drow, this is a deadly encounter for 5 level 4 characters. However, they're probably going to be level 5, so it's probably only going to be hard. So what I was thinking is I'm probably going to switch out these drow for scouts and probably add however many more, I guess. Maybe add another veteran. I don't know. I will probably keep it at 2. Because 5 is too much. But let's look at the differences. So this drow, the main thing is this sunlight sensitivity. While in sunlight, the drow has disadvantage on attack rolls as well as perception checks that rely on sight. So when it's talking about these, let's see about these. It talks about these drow and that. Hold on. Yeah. It talks about the drow and how they're, you should play this thing at night, and I'm like, okay, well, if they're just sensitive to that, just switch them out for something else. The scout has a little bit more health, but a little bit less AC. I think that we could probably just match we could probably go to 14 on the AC. But the big thing about the scout is that it has 2 ranged attacks, and the ranged attacks are from a longbow. Now, he wants to use a drow, but the drow only has a hand crossbow, and the effective range of the hand crossbow is only 30 feet. Heading into some games with Loki. All right, y'all. Good to see you. Enjoy your games. What games are you guys playing? Played some Knockout or some shit? Apex. Nice. But yeah, I'm probably going to switch these drow out to scout because, I don't know, he wants the drow to be hanging out in that back cavern. using their hand crossbows and shooting from range. So I'm just gonna beef them up a little bit. I'm just gonna give them this longbow. I'm gonna call them scouts, and that's gonna be it. The other thing I was thinking about is maybe turning them into merfolk just for a little bit of added flavor. Still get 2 range, 2 melees, still the same amount of HP. The veteran's really great, good amount of HP, great AC, and has multi attacks. Great fighters. Again, I don't know why this werebore is in here. I don't know what it's doing here. But it's a CR4. So I don't know. Maybe there's something else that we can put in here that's a CR4, like a giant coral snake. I don't know. But the whole thing about the werebore is the immunity to non-magical attacks and from silvered weapons. So I get it. It's really tanky. But I don't know. Maybe the boar, maybe if they're having a really easy time, I'm going to pull out this giant coral snake on him. I don't know. I'm just going to keep it in the back burner. This is from... I think this is actually from the Saltmarsh book. Yeah. So I think we're going to throw that in there. The other thing that I was thinking about is this werebore has another pet of a flail snail. And flail snail is my favorite, probably one of my favorite monsters, just because of how amazing this creature is. Can we talk about how amazing this creature? Okay. But there's a lot of really great things about the flail snail. Anti-magic shell. The snail has advantage on saving throws against spells, and any creature making a spell attack against the snail has disadvantage on the attack roll. If the snail succeeds on its saving throw against a spell or attack and misses, or the spell attack misses it, an additional effect might occur as determined by rolling a d6. A lot of mechanics to it. The spell affects an area or has multiple targets. It fails and has no effects. The target spells only snail. It has no effect on the snail and is reflected back at the caster using the spell slot level, spell save DC, attack bonus of the caster. 3 or 4, no additional effect. 5 or 6, the shell converts some of the energy into a burst of destructive force. Each creature within 30 feet of the snail must make a DC 15 Constitution saving throw, taking 1d6 force. So that's awesome. That kind of like counters your wizard and your sorcerer from spamming fireballs, right? Flail snail has 5 tentacles. Whenever the snail takes 10 damage or more in a single turn, one of its tentacles dies, kind of like a hydra. If even one of the tentacles remains, the snail regrows all of the dead ones in within 1d4 days. Tentacles die, the snail retracts into its shell, gaining total cover, and begins wailing. A sound like be heard from 600 feet, stopping only when it dies. 5d6 minutes later. Healing magic that restores limbs such as a regenerate spell can halt its dying process. So really dramatic flail snail death. It's not even, I mean, they're going to try to pound this thing to make sure that it's dead, but it's literally just dying for however many turns. Okay, so it's attacks. It has multi-attacks. It has 5 flails. Flail tentacle attacks its flail tentacles, and it all attacks the same target. And that's the biggest thing. You got to read that. So all of the flails are going to target one person. If it has all 5, that can be really dangerous, especially to a squishy caster or maybe a rogue or something. We have a scintillating shell. The snail's shell emits dazzling colored light until the end of a snail's next turn. During this time, the shell sheds bright light in a 30-foot radius and dim light for an additional 30 feet. Creatures that can see the snail have disadvantage on attack rolls against it. In addition, any creature within the bright light and able to see the snail when this power is activated must succeed on a DC 50 wisdom saving throw or be stunned. So that's great. Another action that it can do, if it's dying, withdraws into its shell, getting a +4 AC until it emerges. Emerge from its shell as a bonus action on its turn. So, hey, if you know that they're coming in for it, maybe make the snail take a little defensive turn, and then on its next turn, pop out. Oh, maybe it enters the fight as a shell itself, just a shell. The werebor's sitting there, kind of like maybe leaning on the shell, or it runs back into that room, and then the snail's going to pop out on its bonus action, hit with all 5. That's pretty dangerous. So let's see what it does. Flail snail. There we go. Flail snail. CR3. So still only hard. So we put 2 in there. Maybe. Yeah, we're gonna put 2 in. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what kind of characters sign up for this event, and if it's really, really beefy, I'm going to throw the 2 flail snails in there. Then they're going to fight the 4 to 5 giant octopuses. And I think that's going to be the one shot. That's really all there is to it. And I think that's kind of like the beauty of this one shot. And I think that's why I picked it. And because it's really, really, really hard to make a one shot just into a one shot. So we're going to try really, really hard to make sure that this one shot is actually just a one shot. But yeah, that's about all I had. We're not going to throw a Tarrasque at him. We're also not... I don't know. I think that the shark fin encounter skill challenge is going to be really good. Just to kind of get things going, get people into their characters, because it's a one shot. Kind of hard to connect with your character when it's a one shot. So I think it's going to be good. Thinking about the way that this whole thing kind of has this mechanic. Like I said, it is a really good way to prepare for the Danger of Dunwater, which is the second adventure of Ghost of Saltmarsh. There is so much to that encounter. Let's see. Okay. So, Danger at Dunwater, the second adventure in Saltmarsh, really ties into that mechanic just because of what's going to happen. They give you this massive map. This is like, when you look at this, like you see this is like a mighty dungeon crawl, and it's going to be crazy going through. It's not even, it's a mission of like diplomacy. And I think it's kind of weird that they put it in there, but I know that it's like a 1E story that, you know, the whole book is a collection of 1E stories that are brought up to 5E. I get it, but like, I think they could have put in a little more pirate adventures. But the whole premise is that these are major spoilers for any of my Saltmarsh crew that are watching. The whole major plot of Danger at Dunwater is... after they search the abandoned house, they learn that there's a band of smugglers that are currently operating out of there, and these smugglers are actually providing weapons to these lizard folk. These lizard folk are preparing for war against the Sahuagin, which is these like fish creatures that I still need to introduce to the characters as well. You kind of like pepper them in there until the final enemy, which is not the final enemy in Saltmarsh. It's just called the final enemy. But the whole premise is that you come here as like kind of like a diplomacy mission, and there are a lot of rules of engagement, we'll call them. That's exactly what they're called. So they start out approaching this dungeon with 0 points. 0 diplomacy points, basically. And that score is adjusted every time they interact with the lizard folk, but the results only become apparent when the characters meet lizard folk queen. They can earn more points through diplomacy and by proving the tribe's strength and safety. So it gives you these tables of what happens as the party travels through this layer. One of them being that if they enter this layer through this entrance right here, which is like a spot that they can very well see from the sea, which they will probably be doing because they just had gotten a boat. They will just have gotten a boat at this point. So automatically when they start this thing off, they automatically get -5 for being apprehended to try to enter by sea. So you have to run this entire dungeon as this like moving mechanic. I'm just going to kind of play it by ear a little bit. I'm going to give them like more chances to like fix the BS that they say. If you have a party that's like notoriously murder hobery, and that's the kind of game that you want to play, and that's the kind of game that they want to play, great. Make this a whole dungeon crawl. It's going to be really difficult. Or play the failure and spice it up a little bit. You know, it doesn't have to, failure is not a bad thing. It can be that it just changed, you know, it's just going to change the way that the story unfolds. But yeah, it's really interesting to try to keep track of this. I think I'm going to try to build like some kind of Excel file that keeps track of all of these rooms and lizard folk, these little hatchlings. So once they encounter a room non-violently and begin to interact with these lizard folk, the lizard folk will then try to apprehend them and bring them to the queen. So that right there is also really difficult because putting your characters under arrest is not like, nobody wants to get arrested. You know, nobody wants to get put. Your player characters seldom will ever surrender, right? They will pretty much always fight to the death. They will pretty much always fight for what they believe in. And this is a cooperative storytelling experience. So they're pretty much always going to feel like they should be heroes. So like, you really have to be careful with like, again, like I said before, guards, like city laws, and now these lizard folk tribes. So when they approach the first lizard folk group that they meet and the lizard folk try to apprehend them, they're going to get really defensive and maybe lash out and try to fight them. So you gotta kind of like approach it like they're not being arrested. But like, you know, like maybe they don't put manacles on them or like tie their hands or anything, but they like kind of surround them and like make sure, maybe to describe maybe one of them, like they look really serious, but you can tell that they're scared. Like they're really just trying to defend their home, and that's the whole thing about this little module. So yeah, I mean, be careful with apprehending them. But okay, so you let's say they meet this group and they take them all the way down to meet the queen. They meet the queen, and the queen tells them, you have a chance. You have a chance with 24 hours to prove their worth to the lizard folk colony, gaining their trust by visiting and interacting with the occupants of the lair. So this is an entire, and I think that this reason I think it relates a lot to Nomengard from Dragon of Icespire Peak. Like a lot of people will hate on Danger at Dunwater because it's a full, pretty much role play experience. So again, know your party. If they don't like roleplay this much, then, you know, revisit all of the monsters that are in here, make the lizard folk a little more dangerous, and yeah, maybe they don't want to help the lizard folk. But the way that I'm going to run it, I know that I have some good players, and I know that I know that I can get some of them to try to be diplomatic. So I know that this module will work for the group that I'm going to run it for. But if I were to run it for another group, I might kind of revisit that idea. So after they meet the queen, they go on this goodwill tour for 24 hours. Earning the trust of commoners gives them +5. And there's DCs for different types of people that they meet, whether they're shamans or merfolk, or the queen herself. It's really tough. You really gotta read through this whole dungeon and really know it, so that you can role play it out like really well. And don't be afraid to slow it down. Don't be afraid to tell your players, like, hold on, like they'll understand. You don't have to rush everything. You don't have to have everything ready all the time at a moment's notice. You're supposed to enjoy it too. You don't have to feel like you're constantly remembering notes. So just try to remember that. They can bribe their way in. It's going to take some money. But, okay, so here's the other thing. If you have a really combat-heavy party with some itchy trigger fingers, you can instead of a 24-hour-long goodwill tour, you can have them visit a couple people, including the shamans and a couple of those other groups, and then eventually you can kind of send them out on this little side quest to kill this big crocodile. That'll gain them 10 points, which is pretty good. They only need 50. The other thing that you can do is, if they approach by sea, you can send them on another little side quest from the queen to deal with these bullywugs. That will happen if they approach by day. My plan is to play this diplomatically, so I'm going to do the bullywug encounter no matter how they approach it. The only way that I'm not going to be able to do that is if they go in right here into the sea entrance. So any other place, I'm going to be giving them the bullywug encounter. And that encounter is probably one of my favorite encounters in this book so far. Traveling to the lair. I mean, it's giant frogs. Who does not want to fight giant frogs? So let's say that they decide to go here. They're just given a boat, basically. Let's say they decide to go by land. They're not going to, but let's say that they do. The overland journey is longer because of the difficult terrain. Dozens of trails follow roughly parallel to the coast, 140 to 400 yards away from it. Because of the terrain, it will take about 12 hours to travel from Saltmarsh. So that's already terrible. But they are coming through this swamp area in the Hool Marshes, and they come across this roving band of bullywugs that have set up a defensive camp because they found a considerable treasure, and rather than risk traveling through the swamp with their discovery, thus making themselves vulnerable to bandits, they kind of camp down and wait for their king to arrive. King frog. They're frogs. They're giant frogs. So automatically a ton of memes that you can do. The king arrives the night before. He and advisor Arp inspected the treasure. They learned of the presence, and the two frogs that are sitting here stage a competition to see who can waylay the interlopers, being the party. So the first wave is 6 bullywugs attempting to surprise the characters. By now, they should be level 4. So this whole thing I've had to rework and really bump this up a lot. Just because it's like one of the only encounters that they're really going to get if they're going to play this whole diplomatic thing. And I'm like a combat DM, so it's hard to like not. So first wave, 6 bullywugs attempt to surprise them, try to get the surprise round. Arp, the bullywug croaker, on wave 2, and 2 bullywugs arrive shortly after the first wave defeated. They make a grand show of battling their characters. Arp grins to the king whenever he is effective in combat. A little fun little role play thing you can do with frogs. Literally, they're frogs. I love it. Gulpagore, the bullywug royal, arrives mounted on a giant toad. So it's a toad king mounted on a giant toad. and he'll fight. He first tries to communicate with the party with harsh croaks and aggressive gestures, boasting his prowess in battle. A dozen more bullywugs will appear around the edge of the battlefield, but will not approach, giving them a little bit of a audience, basically. An equally aggressive response from the characters, verbally or through gestures, and a successful intimidation or persuasion check convinces the king to retreat and take his remaining warriors with him. So there's a really important thing. Do you know your characters well enough that they're going to try to not kill everything, or are they going to just say, hey, come and get it, you know? I think that there's one character in particular that will see this show of strength and will give it right back to them. And I think I think that that person is also a charisma-based character, and I think that they're going to pass this and they're not going to have to fight the king. Not that they're going to have any trouble killing this guy, but it's just still fun. So, yeah, I think that's kind of one of those things. It's and how it relates to the Dead Squid Cove is there's also this roster that is always moving as the characters are moving through it. So that's kind of hard to track. You got to make sure you're on it. We have area 44. There is one lizardfolk commoner. Commoner tries to remain here unless the characters release it. If that happens, it tries to flee to... Oh, I'm reading the wrong one. Whoopsie. Occupants at start 2 lizardfolk and 1 lizardfolk scale shield. Let's see what the scale shield is. It's pretty cool. It's got a spike shield, maybe expectantly. It's got a morning star. Use his shield block. Always use the special thing that the monster has. Don't just use the regular little attack. So these guards go into areas 42, 48, or 52 if alerted to the presence of the characters in those areas. So you have to know this while the characters are in these 3 areas, that these guys are waiting for them at all time. What? So let's see where those areas are. 42. 42 is here. So yeah, you gotta be on it. If spoilers. Nah, it's all good, dude. Yeah, if the characters are there, you have to be aware of that. This is probably the hardest part of Danger at Dunwater, is managing this. And I don't really have a lot of tips or recommendations on dealing with this, other than to just know it really well. So just read it as many times as you can, get really familiar with it, and then just play it as best as you can. I don't think that you should try to follow this like to the T, to the exact word, like as you're playing it. I think that you should understand it really well and try to remember it as best as you can. And then when the moment comes, just make the call. If they're in this area and you think that these guys should come out and go see what's happening, then do it, you know? But if you're going to go off the path, stay off the path and do your own thing. Just use this as a reference. Otherwise, the entire time, every single room that they go through, you're going to have to look at this thing and make sure that you're following it. So, you know, on top of tracking audio and monster abilities and other DM stuff, I would say save yourself the trouble and just understand it the best you can and make the call, you know? Because they don't know about it. They don't know what's happening. They don't know what's wrong. They don't know how, like, if you're going to mess it up. Like, they don't know, you know, it's like a musician. Like, when you mess up a note, like, they don't know that you messed up that note unless it's, like, really obvious. Just keep playing, and they're going to forget about it in 5 minutes, so you don't have to worry about it. But there are a few other instances like this where that like, moving mechanic is going to show up. And I think it's something that is really useful in kind of building an impactful encounter. I think it gives a lot of depth into your dungeon and stuff like that. Just don't overdo it. So, but this is something that I will also be revisiting. I will probably revisit this twice. You'll see me. I'll probably go into this into detail. There's also, if you notice, this is a white and black and white map. So I'm going to try to change it into color, but the last time I tried to change it to color, the map wasn't exactly the same, the dynamic lighting and stuff. So you'll see it again, and we'll talk about Danger at Dunwater. If anybody has any recommendations for me, just please tell me what I'm doing wrong. If you have any ideas for how to make it better, I would always love to know. But I think that's pretty good. I think between Dead Squid Cove and the changes that we're gonna make, I think that's gonna make it into a good one shot. And I think that we're actually gonna do it. I think we're actually gonna be able to complete a one shot in one day. So hold me accountable and yell at me in chat if I'm taking too long. But yeah, it's nice, just a little chill night. I think that's all we're gonna talk about tonight. If anybody's got anything else that they want to talk about, let me know. Otherwise, yeah, I'll get the name right eventually. Dead Squid Cove by DM Dave. So we'll see how it goes. And at this time, I think that's pretty good. So thank you guys for listening. Thanks for hanging out with me while I do a little bit of DM prepping. We just finished our tea. That's perfect timing. I think that we're mostly prepped. I think we understand this module. I'm going to do a little bit of tweaking, changing out some monsters on the day. It just kind of depends on what the characters pick, what kind of characters, how many characters, average party level. But yeah, I think that was a successful little DM prep. So yeah, thank you guys for listening. Thanks for watching. I think we're gonna try to raid somebody. That's something I'm trying to do. we're gonna try to figure it out. I think today, let's see if we got any of our friends on. I think we're gonna go into the D&D category. Let's see if we can find any dungeon masters who are prepping, maybe. Let's see. Join us in the high seas. There's a salt marsh. There's a session 0 from the D&D show. That's pretty cool. Maybe we can do that. Keep looking. Trying to interact with the. Let's read original 1974 edition of D&D. That's pretty cool. Kind of the same thing. Let's see what he's got going on. It's an ad. But yes, so reminders, schedule this Saturday. We were originally off, but I think if I get enough players, we will play this one shot. If not, I'll push it to the next following bye week, which is 2 weeks from then. So yeah, this Saturday we might play this one shot if we get enough characters. Otherwise, we have off on Saturday. I know that everybody's got a nice long weekend coming up. I hope everybody enjoys it. Stay safe. And then on Sunday, it's the 4th Sunday. We're still going to do WoW, TBC Classic. We're still going to play some WoW, level our Ice Mage, and hang out there. And yeah, so this is Alexandrian, the Alexandrian. And it seems like he's doing a little bit of a DM prep. So we're going to take the party to him. If you guys enjoyed that, you can listen to him. Check out some of the 1974 edition of D&D. But yeah, thanks so much, guys, for hanging out. I hope you have a great rest of your week. So take care, guys. Let's go hang out with him. Raid. Let's see if we got it. One of you. Okay. Yep. All right. We got it. Have a great week, everybody. Take care. Have a great night.